Ladies and gentlemen, every single morning you're handed a gift, a brand, new day, a blank page, a chance to rewrite your life. But most people waste it. They wake up and let the world decide how they feel, what they think, and who they become. Not you. Because today, I'm going to show you something that can shift your entire destiny. 4 powerful questions that, if you ask them every single day, will rewire your mind, elevate your energy, and make you unstoppable. The answers are already inside you. You just need to start asking the right questions. And ladies and gentlemen, every single day you wake up, the world gives you a gift, a clean slate, a fresh start, a brand, new opportunity to shape who you are and where you're going. But most people don't grab that gift. They hit the snooze button on life. They go through their days reacting instead of creating, existing instead of living, and wondering why nothing ever changes. You see, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Because questions direct focus, and focus creates meaning. What you focus on, you feel. What you feel, you act upon, and what you act upon becomes your destiny. And so, what if you started asking better questions? What if every day you trained your mind to focus on growth, purpose, and power? Imagine what would happen if, before the chaos of the world touched you, you took control of your inner world. Because transformation doesn't begin with changing your circumstances. It begins with changing your perspective. And perspective is born from the questions you ask. And the first question you must ask yourself every day is this: what am I grateful for right now? Gratitude isn't a luxury, it's fuel for your spirit. It's the antidote to fear, anger, and scarcity. You cannot feel fear and gratitude at the same time. You cannot feel anger and gratitude simultaneously. Gratitude rewires your brain to see abundance instead of lack, possibility instead of limitation. When you train yourself to focus on what's already good, what's already working, you shift your entire emotional state. You stop waiting for happiness to come from something external, the job, the money, the validation, and you start generating it internally. And when you wake up, before checking your phone, before scrolling through the noise, pause and ask, what am I grateful for? Maybe it's your breath, your heartbeat, the chance to try again today. Maybe it's the people who believe in you, the lessons from your pain, or simply the fact that you're still standing. Because life has tested you, and yet, here you are alive, breathing, capable of more. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into miracles and obstacles into opportunities. And the second question is, what can I give today? Most people live in a state of taking. They wake up thinking, what can I get? They want recognition, money, comfort, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But real fulfillment never comes from what you get. It comes from what you give. Contribution is what gives meaning to success. Without it, success feels empty, and when you ask, what can I give today? You're stepping into your highest self. You're saying, I have something to offer. I have the power to make someone's day better, to create impact, to serve. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's as small as a smile, a compliment, a gesture of kindness, or simply listening when someone needs to be heard. When you give from the heart, you awaken something within yourself that no achievement can match. Because deep down, your spirit was designed for growth and contribution. That's where true joy lies, not in what you achieve for yourself, but in what you create for others. And now, the third question, and this one will change your trajectory, is, what must I do today to move closer to the life I desire? Too many people drift through life with vague dreams but no direction. They say they want change, but they don't define the steps to get there. Without clarity, there's no power. Without action, there's no momentum. So, each morning, ground yourself by asking, what can I do today, not next week, not someday, today, that moves me forward? And it might be a conversation you've been avoiding. It might be finally starting that project, making that call, or committing to that workout. It might be simply choosing discipline over distraction. Because small daily improvements compound into massive transformations. You don't need to take 100 steps, you just need to take one in the right direction. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Success doesn't come from luck, it comes from relentless action fueled by purpose. And when you focus on progress instead of perfection, you start building unstoppable momentum. You stop waiting for the right moment, because there is no right moment. The moment is now. The decision you make today, the action you take today, is what separates those who dream from those who do. And the fourth question is the one that reveals your truth. Who am I becoming? Every thought, every choice, every habit is shaping the person you're turning into. You are never standing still, you're either growing or decaying, moving forward or falling back. The question, who am I becoming, forces you to align your behavior with your vision. And ask yourself, are my current habits shaping me into the person I want to be? Are my thoughts empowering me or limiting me? Am I living by intention or by default? Because the future version of you is being built by what you do right now. Every time you choose courage over comfort, discipline over distraction, growth over excuses, you're sculpting your future self. And every time you settle, delay, or doubt, you're shaping a different version, one that doesn't reflect your potential. And when you ask this question daily, you hold yourself accountable. You start to make decisions not based on your mood, but based on your mission. You begin to see that success isn't about achieving things. It's about evolving into the kind of person who can handle those things. The question, who am I becoming, reminds you that greatness isn't a goal, it's a process, a state of being, a journey of constant alignment with your values and vision. And so, imagine waking up tomorrow and asking these 4 questions. Before you touch your phone, before the noise of the world steals your focus, you ground yourself in gratitude, contribution, action, and growth. You begin your day with clarity and power, not confusion and chaos. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You take control of your inner world so the outer world no longer controls you. And because the truth is, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you're willing to become. And becoming starts with awareness. Awareness starts with better questions. You don't need more time, more luck, or more resources. You need more direction, and direction comes from asking the right questions. And ask yourself every day, what am I grateful for? What can I give? What must I do today to move forward? Who am I becoming? And because when you live inside those questions, life starts to open up in ways you can't even imagine. The answers you find will shape your emotions, your energy, and your destiny. The world doesn't change because you wish it to, it changes because you decide to show up differently, to think differently, to feel differently. And it all begins with a question. The right question, asked with intention and emotion, can unlock everything you've been searching for. Your future is not waiting for a miracle. It's waiting for your mind to wake up and take control. Your destiny isn't hiding in the distance. It's hidden in the questions you ask yourself every single day. And when you begin to live by these questions, something extraordinary starts to happen inside you. You begin to wake up with purpose instead of pressure. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you, and you start realizing it's something happening for you. You begin to see that every challenge carries a gift, every setback holds a lesson, and every single day gives you another opportunity to design the kind of life that fills your soul. Most people walk through life asleep, trapped in old stories, stuck in old emotions, repeating the same patterns because they never stop long enough to ask why. But the moment you start questioning your patterns, you reclaim your power. You start to see that your future isn't limited by your past, it's expanded by your awareness. And when you ask powerful questions consistently, your brain goes to work finding answers. That's how the mind operates. Whatever question you feed it, it searches for evidence to make it true. So, if you ask, why do I always fail? Your brain will find 100 reasons why, but if you ask, what can I learn from this? Your brain shifts gears. It starts looking for wisdom, solutions, strength. The power isn't in the circumstance, it's in the question. You've got to stop asking disempowering questions that shrink your potential and start asking questions that stretch it. And think about it, when was the last time you caught yourself saying, why me? That question is poison. It locks you into a mindset of victimhood. But what if in that same moment you replaced it with, what is this trying to teach me? Or how can I grow from this? That single shift changes everything. Pain becomes purpose, failure becomes feedback, struggle becomes strategy. Because growth never happens by accident, it happens by conscious direction, and when you keep asking, who am I becoming? You begin to live with vision instead of memory. Most people use their past as a reference point for what's possible. They say, I've never done that before, or I'm not that kind of person. But those are just old definitions, old programs. You are not your past, you are the meaning you give to your past. And when you begin to redefine what your experiences mean, you start writing a new story. And the person you are today is not fixed, it's fluid. Every thought, every emotion, every decision is shaping who you will be tomorrow. The question is, are you shaping it intentionally? Because whether you realize it or not, every moment you're either conditioning yourself to grow or conditioning yourself to stay stuck. The secret is awareness. When you live consciously, you don't get swept away by emotion or fear. You observe it, you learn from it, and you redirect it. That's how leaders are made, not by avoiding pain, but by mastering their meaning behind it. And now let's talk about the question, what can I give? Because it's not just about service, it's about identity. When you give, you reinforce the belief that you are enough, that you have something of value to offer. And that's powerful because the world trains us to believe we're not enough until we prove it. Until we earn more, achieve more, become more. But when you start giving from a place of authenticity, you break that pattern. You start to realize that contribution is not about abundance, it's about intention. Even when you think you have little, you can always give your energy, your attention, your compassion. And there are people right now who need your strength, your story, your example. And sometimes the smallest act can ignite the biggest change, not only in someone else's life, but in your own. Because when you contribute beyond yourself, you connect to something greater than yourself. That's where fulfillment lives. That's where purpose begins to breathe. And then there's that question, what must I do today to move closer to the life I desire? That question is the anchor that keeps you from drifting. You see, clarity is power, but without execution, clarity dies. Every dream, no matter how big, begins with one decision, one act of courage, one step forward. But most people never take that step because they overthink it. They wait for certainty, they wait for confidence, they wait for everything to feel right. Yet the truth is, confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from action. And when you move, even imperfectly, the universe responds. Doors open, opportunities appear, momentum builds, but if you wait, you rust. If you wait, you lose the rhythm of your own potential. That's why you must start now where you are with what you have. Don't underestimate the compound effect of small actions done consistently. Because discipline builds trust within yourself and trust builds power. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes and start seeing yourself as someone who executes. And that brings us back to gratitude, the heartbeat of growth. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to see what's good even when things aren't. It's about training your mind to find beauty in the mess, strength in the struggle, and light in the dark. Because If you only practice gratitude when life is easy, it's not real gratitude, it's convenience. Real gratitude is when you look at the storm and still find something to thank it for. That's what transforms pain into peace. That's what builds resilience, and you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you make it mean. You can choose to believe that life is happening for you, not to you. And when you believe that, even your struggles start to serve you. They sculpt your character, they sharpen your vision, they prepare you for the very thing you've been praying for. Every challenge is either a wall or a doorway. The question you ask determines which one it becomes. And every single day, life gives you these moments of choice, moments to react or respond, to shrink or rise, to repeat or evolve. And your questions are what guide those moments. When you start asking, "What am I grateful for?" your heart opens. When you ask, "What can I give?" your soul expands. When you ask, "What must I do today?" your body takes action. When you ask, "Who am I becoming?" your spirit aligns. That's the power of living intentionally. And you begin to understand that success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. The external world begins to mirror your internal world. When your inner questions are rooted in growth, courage, and gratitude, your outer world begins to reflect opportunities, people, and moments that match that vibration. And the truth is, everything you need to transform your life is already within you: the strength, the creativity, the wisdom, the love. But it's buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and old stories. The right questions peel those layers back. They awaken the part of you that remembers who you really are: powerful, resourceful, limitless. And ask yourself right now, if I truly believed I was limitless, what would I do differently today? How would I speak to myself? How would I treat others? How would I show up? Those questions are not fantasies, they're invitations. They pull your higher self forward. They remind you that your potential is not something you chase. It's something you step into, one question, one choice, one moment at a time. And when you live this way, something remarkable happens. You stop needing motivation because you become driven by meaning. You stop waiting for external validation because you start living by internal alignment. You no longer ask, "What do I have to do today?" but instead, "Who can I become through what I do today?" That's the shift that separates ordinary from extraordinary. And life is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about having all the answers, it's about asking better questions, because those questions become your compass. They direct your emotions, your energy, your focus, your future. And every day you ask them, you get stronger, clearer, more unstoppable. And there will be days when you forget, when doubt creeps in, when the old voices whisper that you're not enough. That's when you ask again. You keep asking until the questions become habits and the habits become identity. Because the moment you take control of your inner dialogue, you take control of your destiny. You are not at the mercy of life, you are the author of it. And every great author begins with one powerful question: what story am I choosing to tell myself today? And because that story, built from your daily questions, will either imprison you or set you free. And as you continue to live with that level of awareness, something deeper starts to awaken inside of you. You start realizing that life isn't about getting through the day. It's about creating the day. Every morning becomes a canvas, and every thought, every question, every choice becomes a stroke that paints the masterpiece of your life. You begin to notice that the energy you bring into the morning sets the tone for everything that follows. If you begin with anxiety, the world will mirror it back to you. But if you begin with gratitude, intention, and clarity, life starts to respond with opportunities, synchronicities, and moments that feel almost magical. And the truth is, every human being has the same 24 hours, but not everyone has the same awareness. The difference between someone who thrives and someone who survives is the questions they live by. When you wake up and immediately ask what's wrong, what's missing, your focus goes toward lack. But when you train your mind to ask what's possible today, what can I create, who can I serve, what can I celebrate, you start living in abundance. You move from being a reactor of life to a creator of life, and every challenge that comes your way isn't there to punish you, it's there to prepare you. But if you're asking the wrong questions, you'll never see the lesson hidden within the pain. When you face resistance, when things don't go your way, stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to make me into? Because life is always shaping you, refining you, strengthening you for something bigger. Growth rarely feels good in the moment, but it's what molds you into the person capable of holding your dreams. And think about it, the most fulfilled people in the world didn't get there because they never failed. They got there because they learned how to interpret failure differently. They asked empowering questions in the moments most people give up. When others said, this is too hard, they asked, how can I make this work? When others said, it's impossible, they asked, what if it's not? They trained their minds to search for possibility, not limitation. That's the power of focus. Whatever you focus on consistently, you'll find evidence for. Focus on problems, you'll drown in them. Focus on progress, you'll create it. And when you consistently ask, who am I becoming? You start living intentionally rather than accidentally. You stop chasing temporary highs and start aligning your choices with your higher vision. Because who you become matters far more than what you achieve. Achievement without alignment feels empty. Success without self-awareness feels hollow. But when who you are becoming matches who you were born to be, life begins to flow. You stop fighting with yourself. You stop sabotaging your own progress. You move in harmony with your purpose. And every single day, life will test you. It will test your patience, your discipline, your belief in yourself. You'll have moments where your mind will whisper, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe it's too late. And in those moments, your questions will save you. Instead of feeding the doubt, you interrupt it. You ask, what if this is exactly the test I need to grow stronger? Or what would my best self do right now? Those questions shift you instantly from fear to power. And there's a part of you right now that already knows what you need to do. You've felt it before, that inner whisper, that gut feeling, that spark of clarity. But over time, the noise of doubt, fear, and comfort drowns it out. The way back is simple. Reconnect through questions. Every question is a door back to your truth. What would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would my life look like if I decided to go all in? What am I pretending not to know? Those are not just words, they are catalysts. They activate your courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of it. It's waking up every day and saying, I may not have all the answers, but I'm willing to find them. You build confidence not through success, but through consistent action. Each time you act in alignment with your truth, you send yourself a message, I can trust me. And that trust becomes your foundation. When you trust yourself, you no longer need certainty from the world. You become the source of your own strength, and when you ask, what can I give today? You open yourself to connection, and connection is the heartbeat of fulfillment. We're not here to walk alone. We're wired for contribution, for impact, for meaning. The moment you shift your focus from what can I get to how can I serve, everything changes. Your energy expands, your problems shrink. You begin to realize that the fastest way to elevate your own life is to help elevate someone else's. Because what you give multiplies. The kindness you share today might echo back in ways you can't even imagine. And remember, the question, what must I do today to move closer to the life I desire, is not just about tasks or goals. It's about alignment. It's about action with purpose. Too often, people mistake movement for progress. They're busy, but not effective, they're active but not intentional. But when you ask that question with honesty, your mind filters out the noise. You stop doing things that don't matter. You stop chasing distractions disguised as opportunities. You start acting from clarity, not confusion. And you can spend a lifetime waiting for motivation to arrive, but the truth is, motivation comes from movement. Action creates emotion. You can't think your way into a new state, you act your way into it. So when your mind tells you, I don't feel like it, that's your cue to move. To take one small step, because that step triggers momentum, and momentum creates transformation. And every day you have the power to decide what story you're going to live. You can live the story of your excuses or the story of your evolution. You can ask questions that weaken you or questions that wake you up. Why can't I? Will drain your energy. How can I? Will unleash it. Your life follows the direction of your dominant question, so choose wisely. And when you combine gratitude with vision, contribution with discipline, reflection with action, you become unstoppable. You start operating from a different frequency, one that attracts growth, love, abundance, and peace. The people around you begin to feel it. They see the shift in your energy, in your presence. Because true power is quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, because it's rooted in certainty. And you start realizing that it's not about controlling everything, it's about mastering yourself. The world doesn't have to change for you to feel joy. The economy doesn't have to shift, your relationships don't have to be perfect, your past doesn't need rewriting. You simply need to take control of your focus. Because whatever you focus on, you feel, and whatever you feel, you live. The quality of your life is not determined by what happens. It's determined by the meaning you attach to what happens. And meaning comes from your questions, and there's a version of you waiting on the other side of discipline, consistency, and clarity. That version is stronger, more focused, more alive, and you don't have to wait years to meet them. You just have to start asking the right questions today. When you do, the fog begins to lift. You start seeing opportunities where before you saw obstacles. You start feeling empowered where before you felt stuck. Because asking the right question opens a new level of awareness, and awareness is the beginning of all change. And so as the days go on, train your mind to live in inquiry, not assumption. Don't assume you failed, ask what the experience gave you. Don't assume it's too late, ask what's still possible. Don't assume you're broken, ask what part of you is ready to heal. Those questions open doors where others see walls. They create momentum where others see stagnation. They build resilience where others see defeat. And every great transformation begins with a single, powerful question that cuts through the noise of fear and reconnects you to your truth. And when you live in that space, curious, conscious, courageous, you stop waiting for permission. You stop looking outside for validation. You start creating the life you were meant to live, one question, one choice, one day at a time. And as you continue to live in that space of awareness and intention, you begin to understand something profound, that life isn't happening randomly. Every moment, every person, every experience is there to reveal something to you. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is awareness. It's the ability to stop and ask, what is this trying to show me? What part of me is this helping me strengthen? Because nothing in your life is wasted. The moments that broke you, the seasons that tested you, the failures that humbled you, all of it was shaping the strength you have now. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the very thing that gives you power, perspective, and compassion. And you see, when you begin to live with powerful questions guiding your days, your mind starts to rewire. You start to notice things you once overlooked, opportunities hidden inside obstacles, meaning buried within mistakes. Your energy shifts from why is this happening to me to what can I create from this? And that shift, that single pivot in mindset, changes everything. Because life is never about what happens, it's always about what you decide it means. Meaning creates emotion, and emotion drives action. Change your meaning, and you change your life. And ask yourself right now, how many times have you told yourself a story that made you smaller than you are? How many times have you labeled something as failure when it was really feedback? Every time you do, you limit what's possible for you. But when you flip the question, when you ask, how can this serve me? You turn pain into power. Suddenly the past becomes a teacher instead of a prison. The story that once held you back becomes the story that moves you forward. And every emotion you experience carries a message if you're willing to listen. Fear says, pay attention. Anger says, a boundary has been crossed. Sadness says, it's time to let go. Even doubt can be a gift. It's asking you to reconnect with your certainty. But most people run from these emotions. They distract, avoid, or suppress. They don't realize that every emotion is energy, and energy wants direction. The way you give it direction is through questions. Instead of saying, why do I feel like this? Ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me right now? That question turns chaos into clarity. And when you begin to lead your life that way, with curiosity instead of criticism, you start to unlock parts of yourself you never knew existed. You begin to realize that the person you thought you were, the one limited by fear, doubt, or past mistakes, is only a fraction of who you truly are. The real you is beneath the noise, beneath the story, beneath the conditioning. And questions are the tools that help you dig deep enough to uncover that truth. And every day you wake up, you have two choices: to live from habit or to live from intention. Habit keeps you comfortable. Intention makes you grow. Habit keeps you repeating. Intention helps you evolve. And the only way to stay connected to intention is to ask yourself the right questions before the world tells you what to think. What do I want to feel today? What kind of person do I want to be in this situation? What meaning do I choose to give this moment? When you live that way, you stop reacting and start creating. And there will be days when the noise of the world is loud, when people doubt you, when results are slow, when nothing seems to go right. In those moments, you must remember that your questions are your anchor. When everything feels uncertain, ask, what's within my control right now? That question brings your power back to the present moment, where real change happens. Because most suffering doesn't come from what's happening, it comes from focusing on what you can't control. The moment you shift your focus to what you can control, your energy changes, your confidence rises, and your clarity returns. And the most successful people in the world aren't the ones who have it easy. They're the ones who have trained their minds to stay resourceful no matter what happens. They don't waste energy asking, why did this happen? They ask, what can I do now? They've learned that power comes from progress, not perfection. They understand that every step forward, no matter how small, builds momentum, and momentum is everything. And momentum is the invisible force that separates those who dream from those who achieve. It doesn't come from luck. It doesn't come from waiting. It comes from taking consistent, intentional action even when it's uncomfortable. And that begins the moment you wake up. Because if you start your morning with questions that empower you, your entire day transforms. The quality of your morning determines the quality of your mindset, and your mindset determines the quality of your life. And so, when you wake up tomorrow, before your feet hit the floor, ask yourself, what am I grateful for? Feel that emotion, let it fill your body, let it shift your state. Then ask, what can I give today? Maybe it's patience, maybe it's compassion, maybe it's your best energy. Then ask, what must I do today to move closer to the life I desire? Choose one action, not 10, just one that moves you forward. And finally ask, who am I becoming? Because that question is your compass. It keeps your actions aligned with your vision. And it's not about asking these questions once, it's about living them. making them a ritual, making them part of your identity. Because when something becomes identity, it no longer requires willpower, it becomes natural. The person who consistently asks empowering questions becomes someone who naturally looks for growth, naturally focuses on solutions, naturally radiates gratitude and purpose. That's how transformation sticks, and you're not meant to live in survival mode. You're not here to just get through another day. You're here to expand, to create, to contribute, to feel fully alive. But aliveness doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. It's not something you wait for, it's something you generate. You generate it through what you focus on, what you believe, and what you ask. And the human mind is an incredible tool. It can build dreams or destroy them, depending on how you direct it. Every belief you hold today was built from a question you once asked. Can I do this? Am I good enough? What if I fail? Those questions created the identity you live with now. But the beautiful thing about being human is that you can always change the question, and when you do, you change the belief. And so instead of asking, can I do this? Ask, how can I make this happen? Instead of asking, am I good enough? Ask, what can I learn to become even better? Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if I succeed beyond what I ever imagined? You start to see that the difference between fear and freedom is the direction of the question. And every limitation begins as a belief, and every belief begins as a question that went unanswered. So, don't just live with old answers, challenge them, question them. You owe it to yourself to rewrite the script. You owe it to your future self to stop letting old questions define your new reality. And because when you start asking the right questions, you take back control of your narrative. You stop identifying with your past and start identifying with your potential. You start creating instead of coping, leading instead of following, expanding instead of existing. And the beautiful part, you don't need to have all the answers right away. You just need to keep asking, keep seeking, keep growing, because the person who asks powerful questions is never lost, they're evolving. Every question pulls a new piece of wisdom from within. Every moment of reflection strengthens your awareness. And with awareness, there is power, the power to choose, the power to change, the power to become everything you were meant to be.